Share with us some thoughts from today?
Um, yeah, well, today, as everybody else said, was almost the last day. We still have tomorrow to go to the museum. But today, yeah, was the last seminar, and Steve Bell and other speakers also talked again today, which was really good. My favorite one of today, except for Steve Bell's presentation as always, was the one that the members of Congress were, talking to everybody, and then students start asking questions. That was really interesting to me. And then after all these things today, we went to restaurant, two different books we were today. And then to that, what was the name of that place, President?
American Portrait Gallery?
Yeah.
National Portrait Gallery?
Yes, that was really interesting, very, very interesting, nice paintings.
What was your favorite portrait?
Although it was sad, but the one that President, I forgot how to say his name, but Lincoln? Yeah. It was the very last few days of his life, and he was, laying on the bed, everybody was around him, and, somebody was saying prayers, other people were crying, and, it was really interesting to me. I really liked that painting, although it was sad, and he's one of my favorite presidents of the United States, besides President Obama. And yeah, this is my thought of the day, which is today.
Okay, I have a question for you. If tomorrow you were given the chance to sit in a room with the President of Iran, Ahmadinejad, and soon-to-be President of the United States, President Obama, what two questions would you ask them?
Oh.
No pressure.
Well, okay.
Or what two things would you say to them?
First of all, as I said in my blog last night, I don't think that the word president is something that Ahmadinejad has to use, because he doesn't deserve to be the president of a place like Iran. So this is done. I think, I have nothing to tell him except that just, I don't know how to say that, but I don't actually, to be honest, I don't accept him as president of my country. So this is done, I think, to me. But President Obama, as President Obama has become the hope of the United States, I think, that's what I'm hearing from everybody these days. I think he's the hope of my country also, because I really want him, I really expect him to do something within, these years that he's going to be the president of the U.S. I don't know, through conversation with my government, or just somehow that, this government of my country become changed. Just a change after says all the time. He promised change, so I accept that change also. And I don't know, there are so many questions that I have from President Obama, and so many things that I would love him to know about my country and myself and my people. At this time, I have nothing in my mind. I have so many things, but I just cannot pick one of them to say right now.
That's okay.
Maybe I blow something.
Yes, that'd be fantastic. We'd all appreciate that. All right. Thank you, Ellie.
Now that we're bringing back to the school some knowledge, I just want to share two things that I've learned within the last couple of days. I'd like to share with you all, and hopefully it will be something that you can reflect upon. So when Ted Koppel was talking in front of us, he mentioned that the importance of knowing the history of an area, or knowing the history, particularly like the Middle East. And he said that don't treat any issue, or don't think of any issue as its own separate entity. All the issues in the Middle East particularly have this running thread, these running threads that connect them to each other. When the United States put the Shah of Iran in leadership, it had effects that we can see evident today and in other areas of the Middle East. So don't ever think that one issue is its own separate entity. There's running threads that connect all of these issues together. And also another thing, when I visited the public partnership, the Partnership for Public Service, one important thing I learned from them, well, first of all, what they do over there is they're a nonprofit organization working to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of American government. And one important thing that I learned over there was when 9/11 happened, the tragedy in the United States, only 60% the political appointments happened, and they mentioned the transition time is probably the most vulnerable time for any kind of act of terror or any issue of national security to happen. So with their work, they're trying to improve this efficiency and improve the safety and security by making the transition process go by smoother and more quickly. So we're not as vulnerable as we are, as we have been.
And so, favorite experience or event or occurrence of the day, first of all.
I don't really have a favorite experience, but I do have a memorable experience of something that one of the speakers said.
Okay.
I'm not going to mention his name because I am on camera. However, I'm going to mention what he said, which was avoid dull people. That's something that sat with me, and as it started to sink in, it started to sit really in like a poisonous manner, and it started to spoil in my brain. And I really kind of took offense by it because, I consider dullness with beauty, in that it's only in the eye of the beholder as to what's dull or what's beautiful. And for some, science, sports, politics, social issues, those are dull. So should we avoid those people because they feel one specific issue is dull? Or should we avoid people because if we think someone who speaks too much is dull or someone who doesn't speak enough is dull? And I think you're cheating yourself by avoiding dull people, because dull people can have some of the most brilliant minds that you've never met. And tunnel visioning yourself into avoiding any kind of person whatsoever, I think you're cheating yourself as well from getting about the most well-rounded perspective that you could hope to see in the world today. So I'm going to blog about that a whole lot more later.
And if you could have asked this individual a question, what would you have asked him?
I would have asked him, why is he so dull?
Well said.
Because I think that I would find a way to throw it back in his face, because that's one of the things that I've also started to think about. And I'm not taking a cynical view towards this conference and towards this seminar, because it's definitely been one of the most positive experiences of my entire life. However, I find it entertaining that so many people will just completely eat up what these people say just because they're quote-unquote experts or public figures and they've been in the public spotlight for so long. I mean, we need to take some of that with a grain of salt and also be able to convey our own thoughts and harness what we feel is right. And just because he says to avoid dull people doesn't mean you should avoid dull people. Maybe he's the dull person and he's the ignorant mind. I mean, just because he gets on TV and speaks news doesn't make him brilliant. It makes him experienced, and he's seen a lot of things, and I would certainly have a whole lot to learn from him. But that one statement doesn't necessarily sit well with me.
Very good. And could you give us a little insight on your opinion of Washington in general?
Washington is phenomenal. I certainly feel that the history here is almost overwhelming at times because there's so much to see, and I think that you could spend 5 years here and not see everything. And there's a lot of personal things here that I'd like to go see that have personal history with me, that some of it I have seen and some of it I haven't seen. Hello, sorry, that was lunch that I just burped on camera. But
Wouldn't
anyway.
have noticed it.
But there's just so many different things here historically, and I mean contemporary stuff. There's something for everybody, and you could never run out of things to do here.
Very good. And you also went to the National Portrait Gallery this afternoon.
I did.
What was your favorite piece?
Nolan Ryan.
Why?
Because he's my favorite baseball player of all time.
Woo! That's good. I learned
No
something
way.
new. I didn't know who that was.
I do not know who painted it. I guess because I'm not really like an artsy person, I didn't really care about who painted it. I just really liked the photo.